Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Maverick Musings podcast, hosted by me, Rick. We're now on episode 4, and well, after last week's episode, I thought I'd try something a little bit more light-hearted. So, this week's episode I've called Up, Up, Down, Down, and I'll be talking about my love of gaming. Now, I'd love all types of games, but I do favour some genres more than others, but I'll get into that a little bit later into the podcast. So what I'll do is I'll maybe start with how I fell in love with gaming and what keeps me playing, and go through some of the games that I just keep going back to. So my first games console was when I was very young, maybe about 3 or 4. I had a Sega Master System 2. I am that old. I got it, I think, new. And these are the days way before CDs or anything like that. It was cartridges. And there was one game pre-built in to the system, and that was Sonic the Hedgehog version 1. And I was obsessed with it as a child. Playing it, go from level to level, just getting lost in the world of Sonic. But the one annoying thing of consoles that age is that it was before internal saves. So it was a case of you played until you wanted to stop, and as soon as you stopped, all your progress was gone. So you had to put in a real stint to complete the game. And there was a few other games on there that I had. There was I think there was a karate one. For some reason, I got that on there. There was a cowboy one where you basically it was a first person shooter in a sense. It was kind of like the best way I could describe it was a very pixely Time Crisis, where you were put in. There was 3 doors in front of you, and whatever opened, if it was a bad guy, you had to shoot it. If not, you'd left them. But if you shot the wrong person or you pressed the button too late, the game would be over. And as a small child, I wasn't really good at that. And I had a Formula 1 game, which was pretty cool. But my obsession was mainly Sonic on that console. And I remember one time I played it that much, and I was going for trying to see if I could get all the way through, and it froze. I was on the penultimate level, and the game froze, and I was absolutely distraught because I put in a lot of time, died a lot, had to restart the game a few times because I'd used all the lives. And I got to the penultimate level, and the console decided to just go, no more progress for you. You have to turn the console off and on again. And it was so frustrating. But it kept me coming back and trying to do it again and again, and I never managed to do it on that console. And it was frustrating. But it's what got me hooked. That's how I got started on games, thanks to good old Sonic the Hedgehog. And then growing up, newer consoles came out. I got a Game Boy, an original one. It was green, and that was pretty cool because I had Super Mario 1 and 2 in the little cartridge put in the back. I had the Toy Story game. I had Wario Land, the first one. And then I had a few more. What else did I have? I think I had I know I had Pokemon. I remember Pokemon very well when that came out. And everybody wanted the yellow one because it was Pikachu, but I think I got the red one because Charizard was my favourite one. and a few other games as well. Played that to death. Then got a Game Boy Color, and then that's when Pokemon Gold and Silver came out, but I didn't really get any more games apart from that. But main consoles, I then moved from the Sega to the PS1 and the PS2, and then I switched then from PlayStation to Xbox, mainly because my friends had it, and I played it a few times at theirs, and I got the 360. That was my first introduction to the Xbox, and it was more for being able to play with your friends online because they all had the Xbox. That's why I moved over there, and then I realised I didn't really like playing online that much. But then I stuck with Xbox, so I went from the 360 to the Xbox One, and now I've got the Series X. But I've also had an N64, had a GameCube, and I've done a bit of PC gaming, but nothing really too heavy. But there's been one of my favourite things that I can look back on now and laugh, but at the time it really confused me, was when I got my PS1. I was on it forever. I was constantly playing on it. I had Tekken 2, Crash Bandicoot 2, and the first Gran Turismo were the first 3 games that I got on the console. And for some reason, my mum got addicted to Crash Bandicoot 2. And I just remember, I think I was about 6. It was either 6 or 7. And I had the console in my room, it wasn't downstairs. So in order to play it, my mum had to come in my room to play it. And I remember being woken up at about 3 o'clock in the morning to just hearing, "Oh, you little ginger bastard!" And I woke up and I was like, what was that? And I looked down and there's my mum sat in the chair in my room with my TV on mute, playing Crash Bandicoot because she got stuck on a level and she said she needed to beat it. And it was one of those where I was like, wow, my mum, who never really played games, she just got hooked on this one game and she had to finish it. Even if it was like 3 o'clock in the morning and her son was asleep, she snuck into my room, put my PlayStation on, turned my TV on mute so she could play it without waking me up, and yet she got that frustrated in one of the levels that she shouted out. And it cracks me up because it was like, wow, these games can just hook anybody. So that was quite fun. But my favourite games on the original PlayStation was Crash Bandicoot, but I also liked Gran Turismo as well, because it was just one of those where you could drive the cars, they had the licenses and everything, so it's like you could drive the cars that actually you knew. So that was pretty cool. But also as well, Grand Theft Auto, I had the original copy. My mum buying a 6 or 7 year old son the game, there was an 18+ rating, was pretty cool. But looking back at it now, it was quite a tame game compared to how GTA is now. The good old bird's eye view, driving round, running over things for points. You could run over anything, people, run into other cars, that sort of thing. But these are the good old days of the cheat codes as well. So if you had the good old cheat codes, you could get unlimited ammo, unlimited guns, unlimited money, and so it kind of made it a bit more interesting. But then, sort of moving on to the PS2, the first game I got was The Getaway. And that was a game where I had absolutely no idea what to do when I bought it. Well, when I got given it, sorry. When I first booted it up, I'd never heard of it, because it had just come out, because it was one of the, I think, the launch titles with the PS2. And you never really got a sense of what to do. There was no tutorial level, as there usually is in games. You basically get the opening cinematic, and then you have to just go and do the level. And I never really did it when I first got it. It was just driving around London in, again, cars you recognised. The only way that you knew where you were going, there wasn't a map, the HUD. There was the car's indicators to tell you where to go, which would automatically come on. So if you came to a bit where you needed to go left, it would automatically indicate left, or vice versa, right. But it always made me laugh when you heard the NPCs shout back, like, I still remember distinctively hearing a Cockney accent telling me I was driving the wrong way down a one-way street, going, it's one way, mate, there is a sign. And it always made me laugh for some reason. There was just that level of detail where it kind of immersed you into the story. And it was only, say, like 5 years later when I started really getting into games properly and wanting to see them out, try and get as much completion as I can, that I actually figured out how to play it, and I actually did finish it, and it was actually quite a cool story. But it just made me wonder, going, why was there no tutorial level to really teach you what to do? It was basically opening cinematic when you started the game, and then it's just like, right, go on, crack on. You're a gangster. Come on, try and crack on. You got to do this, got to do that. Save your son, and you just had to figure it out for yourself. So moving into the sort of genres of games that I like more than others. So I like the RPGs, action adventure games, and simulator games. Mainly because the simulator games, it's just something that if you had say I'm having a stressful time, or I'm just bored, just need something to do, I can stick it on and just be like, right, I can just lose myself in this for a couple of hours, or just background noise, background visuals. I can just go, right, I'm playing it, I'm kind of, it's almost second nature. I know what I'm doing, but it's just like time killing. So at the minute, my go-to sim games are either Football Manager, or at the minute on console at least, Farming Simulator. Just because, well, with Football Manager, I'm a massive fan of football, and it's always intrigued me with, football management, how the different roles in football work together, and what the role of a manager or a coach does. And I almost got a job on, I think, 2014 Football Manager as a scout for the town I was living in at the time, but I was told I was a day late with my application, and the person who got it, someone got there first, and I was really annoyed at that, because with what was pitched as the role was I would have to come up with all the stats for all the players. So I'd have to watch trainings, I'd have to watch the reserve teams, I'd have to watch the youth teams, I'd have to go to the games and do reports like a proper football scout. But I'd also have to get to know the management team, the coaching team, the physio team, the scouting team, the ins and outs of the football club and how they're run, to accurately portray them in the database for that year's game. So I was really quite gutted that I didn't get that job, because I would have had some input in a game that I love playing, in a game series that I love playing. And with Football Manager as well, it's one of those where I can just stick it on, waste a few hours just playing at football management, and just getting a bit more knowledge myself for football and players that I've seen play. Like, how good are they? Where do they play? How much does this save think they're worth? Although my kids quite like helping me play it as well. And by I say helping, I mean they just sit on my knee and watch me play it. And a 4 and a 3-year-old are very good at pretending that they're interested. So I usually have like the 2D match viewer so that they can at least see a game going on. And so they're like, which team are we? And I have to tell them what colour we are, and they pretend they're watching a game of football, and they're happy, I'm happy, and we have a pretty decent time. And with action adventures, it's an RPGs for me. It's more, I get more engrossed in the story element of it. If it's a good story or a well-written story, or there's lots of stuff like side stuff that you have to explore to find, that's what invests me in games now. Whereas when I was younger, I'd just play any game that I thought was fun. Now it's more, it has to grab me to grab my interest. So, for example, Grand Theft Auto, great series, mentioned it before, I've had it since the first one. Wasn't really much of a story until Grand Theft Auto 3, in my opinion. It was basically mission to mission to mission to mission. You had to go work for this person, work for that person. Whereas Grand Theft Auto 3 was where it first became more sandboxy. It had more of a narrative, but then that then built on to Vice City, which for me is my favourite one that I've played, because it not only had its first talking protagonist, it was quite a lot of celebrity voiceover or big name voices. It had licensed music. It had the 80s aesthetic. It just, for me, was like a perfect storm of a game. Everything that could make it good made it great. And it didn't go too long. It wasn't too short. It was a game where you could just have fun, and the story was pretty cool. And then, it progressed further and further, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until now we're finally getting Grand Theft Auto 6. So that's a game I'm looking forward to, because I did enjoy Grand Theft Auto 5, but I felt that the gameplay and the things were more, it was more invested in its online system, where I felt, while the story was good, the changing from 3 characters was sometimes annoying, I felt, but I felt it could have benefited from some DLC that wasn't for the online. So I want to know maybe what happened after the ending, or maybe what happened in between the opening cutscene to the start of the game proper. But that's just my personal taste. And other games like Red Dead Redemption, love both of those games for different reasons. I prefer Red Dead Redemption 2 to Red Dead Redemption 1 in terms of story. But as an overall game, I prefer Red Dead Redemption 1 to Red Dead Redemption 2. So the reason I prefer Red Dead Redemption 2 story is because it's what everyone had at the end of Red Dead Redemption 1, an idea of how John Marston came to be John Marston, and had an idea of the Van der Linde gang and how they formed, how they fell apart, and the reason why John Marston had to, basically go and hunt down his old gang members. But I thought, or I'd read a few things, that John Marston was originally going to be the lead for Red Dead Redemption 2, and I was like, oh no, really? Are they going to do that? But then, because we're playing through a character that isn't even mentioned in Red Dead Redemption 1, but it turns out is an essential member of the gang, and you're playing it through him, through Arthur Morgan, it made it better story-wise, because you are literally seeing redemption, as opposed to, as John Marston, you start off, you're an outlaw who's having to work for the government to get rid of his old gang members, so you're instantly starting on the redemption. So for me, story-wise, as great a story as it was, didn't really feel the reason for the redemption. You just got told this is why. Whereas Red Dead Redemption 2, you're starting off as the outlaw as well, but then you're seeing a man go through essentially life, and his reasons for changing is because he's seeing the person who he thinks is his best friend, his maybe even surrogate father, who taught him how to read, how to do this, do that. He's seeing him change, and it's not for the better, and he's seeing him descend into what he sees as the descent to madness and paranoia. And he's seeing now how it's affecting everyone else, and he's realising, oh no, I've done bad. I'm going to try and do some good before I go, type of thing. And you go on that journey with him. And for me, that's why that's a better story. However, for me, the reason why Red Dead Redemption 1 is a better game is because of Red Dead Redemption 2's it's bit after the main campaign, the prologue, where you're playing as John Marston and the build up to Red Dead Redemption 1, and for me, that didn't need to be there. It really didn't need to be there. It was another couple of hours of story, yeah, great. But I didn't need to know that bit. I didn't need to play as John Marston trying to be a rancher. I didn't need John Marston's relationship with his son and Abigail explained more than it already was, because you've got all that in Red Dead Redemption 1. So for me, Red Dead Redemption 1 is the better game, because even with its DLC, Undead Nightmare, that was absolutely hilarious. It felt like it was a parody of everything that was DLC at the time, especially like the Call of Duty series, where zombies was the thing. Everything's got to have zombies in that period of time. And so they're like, right, okay, we're going to see what happens if you put zombies in the Wild West. And it was really fun. It wasn't just like DLC added for the sake of it. They actually made it separate from the story, but with all the characters and everything linked into it, and it was actually pretty fun. And so much so that they actually released it as its own separate disc. After I think about a year it being on the Xbox store. But one thing about Red Dead Redemption 2 when it came out, because we'd waited so long for it, my partner Hannah thought I was quite sad, because I booked a week off work to get it on launch day. So I bought it. I went down to the shop at I think 8 o'clock in the morning, bought it, brought it home, installed it on my Xbox, and I turned around and said to her, now don't expect to hear much from me over the next week. And we lived together. We were living together at that point. And I said, yeah, I might be here, but don't expect to hear too much from me for the next week. And we spent most of the time in the same room. And I think she got a bit frustrated that I was literally spending 12 to 14 hours a day on the game, and she made me take a break from it. And then, due to that break, we've had we got pregnant with our first child, our daughter. So in celebration of that, I bought my daughter a baby vest, saying I'm proof my daddy doesn't play video games all the time, which then got passed down to my son. So a little bit of levity in that. But there's other story-driven games anyway that I really enjoy, such as the Mass Effect series. Apart from Andromeda, that bored me as soon as I started playing it, because it was like they were trying to retell Mass Effect again, but the gameplay with the story didn't sync up, and I lost my connection with it. But certainly Mass Effect 1 to 3, although Mass Effect 3's ending wasn't the best, so much so they had to retcon it and add another choice into it. But just the whole narrative from the first game, where it wasn't really that big of a game when it came out. I'd never heard of it until my friend said, "Oh, hey, you want to play this? This is really good." And I started playing it and I got really into it. Got into the story, and then the second one came out, expanded on the story, the lore, and improved on everything from the first game to then Mass Effect 3, when there was dips and stuff, but I was just that invested in the whole thing that the slightest dip in storytelling didn't detract me from the game, so much so that I still play it quite regularly. Borderlands series, that is a fun game, but also the story, the lore, the fact that it's constantly, each game is kind of linked but it's kind of separate as well, which is quite fun. Number 2 being, in my opinion, the best, mainly because of Handsome Jack and how well written he was, especially with the voice acting as well. Like, it's ad-libbing quite a lot of his lines, especially when he's eating pretzels and he just turns and says, "Whoa, man, these pretzels suck." he's not actually reading the script there. He's actually turning to one of the sound recorders and telling them that the snacks that they've left him really suck, but they were recording and it kept it in. So that was quite a fun thing. But also it wasn't out of character. And the story of that is go find Vault, but find treasure, find Vault. But it's the stories in between where you meet the side characters or you find things like the audio logs and things, sort of like Bioshock. Bioshock for me is, the first one at least, is one of the best stories in a game written. Again, apart from the very end, it could have been the best game story I think ever written if it wasn't for that final boss fight where you had the perfect ending, and then they thought, fuck it, we'll give it another chapter, and it's like, no, you had the perfect ending, and it could have then built into Bioshock 2, but no, they decided to go, yeah, we've given you that bit, but fuck it, we'll just put another bit on. There needs to be a boss fight at the end. People won't believe it if there's not a boss fight at the end. So that kind of ruined the gameplay aspect, but the story aspect was brilliant, but also because of the audio logs that you find that fill you in on a world that you don't know, and the people who you don't really see, and it just builds up the picture of what Rapture was like, what the people were like, and it's one of them where you get lost in it as well. Like the ending, the "would you kindly" twist, when you first saw that, and it was like, oh my god, it's something that you see in the very beginning of it. It's written down on the box that you're holding on the airplane, and you don't really think of anything. Then it fades to black, the plane crashes, but then you're constantly hearing it, but not too much. You're hearing it at certain points, and it's just like, all right, the Atlas is just basically asking us could we please go here? It's his way of saying, could you please do this? Can you please come here? We need to get to this place. But it's actually him telling you, right, you're going here, you're going there, you're under my control, but you don't know it. And when that first reveal, when you experience that reveal for the first time, it's one of those things where the sadness of that game is you will never get to experience it again for the first time, because that moment is just like proper jaw to the floor. And then Bioshock 2, a very underrated game, which is only now starting to get the love that it should have got, because it was, people I think expected more from it than what was delivered, but because of the expectation from the first one, people got their expectations up higher. But again, it was a good story. It was what happens after Andrew Ryan dies, what happens to Rapture. And then Bioshock Infinite, I liked the story it was trying to tell. I think they just got a bit too carried away and were trying to tell too many things, and with the gameplay as well, trying to add too many things into that. It was more of they were trying to do more than what the systems could do at the time. So that was, again, a little bit weak. And also then the Burial at Sea DLC, trying to retcon everything so everything linked together, I think was a misstep. I could see what they were trying to do, but I think it could have been done better. But for me, I think the best series of games that tell a story from beginning to end is the Batman Arkham series. Not just because I'm a big Batman fan, but because each game, from Arkham Asylum to Arkham City to Arkham Knight, the main three that were done by Rocksteady, and I suppose you could include Arkham Origins in this as well, is you are basically living Batman from beginning to end. And you're experiencing different aspects of where he is at the time. So Arkham Origins, he's second year of being Batman, nobody really knows him. He's arrogant, he's cocky, he's angry, he's not the Batman that you're used to. And he's still learning. To Arkham Asylum, where he's been Batman for a while now, he's trapped in the asylum by the Joker, and it's using his brain, his skills, his wits to basically save people in the asylum and stop the Joker. Arkham City is him captured as Bruce Wayne. Is when he starts being Bruce Wayne outside. He gets captured because he was easier to capture than Batman, and him then trying to stop a man who knows who he is, knows his identity, but also having to stop people who were being put in Arkham City who shouldn't have been put in there. He's trying to save those people, stop the supervillains, and try and basically restore order. And then Arkham Knight is, again, someone who knows him, but it's also him figuring out what's life going to be like after Batman. What if when will Gotham not need Batman? And it's his realisation that he can't keep doing this forever, and it was a really good story told over 4 games. And for me, that was the best series because, in my opinion at least, there was no real weak link in that story. Gameplay-wise, yeah, there was a couple of things in certain games where I thought it could have been better or could have been worse, but the story was the thing that kept me going. And that's why I love gaming, is that I can just get lost in the world in front of me, either through visuals or the gameplay. But for me, if it's got a really, really good story, something that I can care about, something that I can invest my time into, I will do it, and I love it. And I will admit, during Red Dead Redemption 2, when it came to Arthur's ending in the game, I genuinely felt sad. I genuinely felt sad that this man, who I'd played for about 80, well, about 40 odd hours at minimum, probably nearly 50 hours, and just how it ended, it was quite sad, because you, as I say, you felt his redemption, you felt his story arc, you felt him going from being an outlaw to wanting to make amends for everything. And it's those are the sort of games that I enjoy, because it makes you feel something. I mean, I didn't cry, but I definitely had a lump in my throat of how it ended for him. And that was really good writing, really good character development, and also really good voice acting from the man who played Arthur Morgan, to make you invest yourself into playing it. But because you were playing it as the character, made you feel like he was you, and you were going through it. And that definitely what I think more games should do, because I'm seeing at the minute a bigger shift to what the games industry is calling live service games, basically online. An example of this is how Grand Theft Auto 5 introduced GTA Online, or claims it did. Grand Theft Auto 4 had it first, and it was fun. GTA Online was fun on GTA 4, but it wasn't the be all and end all. It was, oh yeah, you can play online for a bit, but it never really drove you to it. So I remember when GTA 5 came out, bought it on the day it came out, was talked into buying the special edition by the person at Game. And I thought, yeah, alright then. He said, oh yeah, you can get this when it's online. You can get certain guns, get in-game money. I was like, yeah, cool, no worries, I'll buy it. And the online server wasn't ready for the first month and a half, because it wasn't ready to launch yet. So I bought a special edition that I couldn't fully use. So I was like, right, okay, we'll just play the game. And then I was ready for online, thought I'd give that a go. And I'll be honest, I didn't like it. Because as much as I enjoyed playing GTA 5, the missions online are very repetitive. And I'll be honest, playing online with a lot of people that you don't know and who are just there to spend money, buy the best things, I don't enjoy it, because there's no story to it. It's like, you don't have to do these missions, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. It bores me. It really does. I mean, I played on it. I think the longest I played on it was about 3/4 of an hour, and I just got bored of people driving past in ridiculously overrated cars. When you saw they were on level 2, and have all these guns, have all these things, and I'm just like, they just stop where you spawned, or stop where you are, and you just know instantly what they're going to do. And because they've spent so much money, you've got no chance if you're trying to do it organically. And Rockstar make you buy into that. All the DLC, oh, we got this for this season of GTA Online, this for this. This is the reason why they've not done another Grand Theft Auto for 10 years. Because it's all online. And I really, really hope they don't do the same mistake with GTA 6. I really want them to focus on the story, and online, yeah, it's always going to be a big money spinner for them, but I hope they put as much focus as they have done into GTA Online into the story of GTA 6. Otherwise, I'm going to be very, very disappointed for what is going to be a very expensive game. But anyway, we've now reached the end of this week's episode, and I know I've ranted on a bit longer than I normally do, but it is a subject that I do love, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on about a few games, and hopefully I've made a bit of sense, or at least conversational sense, of what I've been saying. So all that's left for me to say is, please could you like, share and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify if you have enjoyed this video or this podcast. And also, could you leave a comment as well on the videos and on the podcast, depending on which platform you're listening through. It really helps me to know if there's anything I can improve on, what you enjoyed from it, and try and start a conversation about this week's episode. And again, thank you very much for listening. And as always, I will see you next week.